Well, day 4 of the World Economic Forum, and a lot has happened over the past 3 days. So who better than somebody who's, the Group CEO of M&M, Dr. Anish Shah, and of course the head of FICCI, to try and tell us what is he made of the last 3 or 4 days that he's been here. Dr. Shah, thanks for taking the time out and speaking to us.
Very happy to be here. It's been an excellent few days. I must say that the view on India is very positive across the board, and the India delegation has done a great job in portraying India extremely well, and more realistically also. India stands out in the world as a shining star at this point in time. A number of CEOs who I've met over the last few days are keen to know more about India. Some who are not in India want to come to India. Those who are there are looking to expand further, and it's therefore a very positive place for us to be.
Yeah, so that's what I would love to know, because for everybody who's been here, the promenade shows the state pavilions, company pavilions, etc. What is not known is the kind of conversations that are happening. And you made an interesting point about CEOs not present wanting to come to India, and CEOs already present wanting to deepen their presence. Give us a flavor of that.
I think there are a few things driving it. First is India is starting to stand out as a destination for supply chain. In some cases, it may be a de-risking from China. In some cases, I think it's more India standing on its own as an attractive place to be. The second is the India market. I think people are starting to see that now. The consumer in India is growing rapidly. Consumption is going to grow significantly. There is a concern in people's mind as to how do we compete in India.
With the locals, you mean? No.
We've seen foreign companies succeed in India and do very well, and we've seen foreign companies not succeed in India. And so therefore it's rightly a question in their mind saying, what are the lessons we learned from folks who've been there in the past? And how do we learn from folks who succeeded there and come in there and do that? So I think they're thinking about it the right way, but they're thinking about it as a place for supply chain and as a market.
Okay. And to your mind as well, because the Indian consumer is your consumer as well, obviously so, but to your mind too, and to your best estimate in the minds of the global guys, is the nature of the Indian consumer changing? Because we're seeing this whole conversation about, yes, the K-shaped recovery, but also the upper end of the crust being extremely strong across multiple consumption buckets as well. How do you think about it? How do you think the global corporations think about it?
I don't think the nature of the consumer is changing. Different segments in the market will sometimes show greater strength versus less. I think the Indian market overall has shown a lot of strength across segments, and you may see certain pockets where it may be flat versus last year, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for a short time period, especially when you had multiple years that have been very good. So it's a question of what is a time frame that you're looking at. And therefore, even in the discussions that I've had with, again, a number of global CEOs, they're looking at it for the long term. And that's the right way to look at it. And I do think that's a big positive for India. We want more companies to come in and invest in India. That's going to make India stronger. As a domestic manufacturer, we benefited tremendously from the auto industry being extremely competitive over the last 25 years. And I say we benefited because we make far better cars today than we made 25 years ago.
Sure.
And if we didn't have competition, we probably wouldn't make that big a difference. So that competition has spurred us to be a lot better. We have the confidence that we can fight all the global players in India. And therefore, it just helps the market expand a lot more. Manufacturing in India has to play a much bigger role. And if you look at the Prime Minister's vision around Viksit Bharat for 2047, if you look at manufacturing being 25% of the economy by that time, it has to grow 16x in the next 23 years. And for that to happen, we do need to have strong global players in India. We do need to have strong domestic players make in India for the world. All of that has to come together for us to achieve the goals for Viksit Bharat, and it is eminently feasible.
Now, you're at both ends of the spectrum, services and manufacturing. Everybody says how the past decade was services, this decade will firmly belong to manufacturing, even though services will be there. You second that?
I would say it will belong to both manufacturing and services. We have a strength in services. It's something that we should not give up. And we continue to evolve our services businesses very well. So I think it's going to be a combination of both.
Okay. One question that I've asked everybody is this higher for longer rate scenario. If anything, the recent data from the US seems to suggest that maybe the belief around rate cuts coming in earlier in 2024 might have gotten delayed at the global level. India is a separate case in point, and the RBI governor told us about his views as well out there. What is your sense of a higher for longer rate scenario impacting corporations across the world, both on, of course, debt servicing, but also on project IRRs and multiples?
See, first is inflation has to be contained. And if you look at the short-term view and say, I want lower rates, but inflation starts going out of control, that's not a positive scenario for any economy.
Sure.
And that is where we would give the RBI a lot of credit for acting proactively to contain inflation. I would not be one to go out there and say you need to start lowering rates now. I think it has to be done in a measured way when we are certain that inflation is contained. Today, in India at least, it's not hurting anyone in that sense. Yes, there can be faster growth if there's a slightly lower rate, but that growth will be curtailed significantly if inflation starts going out of control. So it's a question of how do you manage the economy longer term or even over the medium term. And therefore, yes, while there has been some challenge, if you look at where we were last year versus where we are today, today there's a lot more positivity around the fact that we're not seeing challenges with inflation. We're seeing that in control.
In India, at least.
In India and possibly even globally. Right? There was a lot more concern around inflation last year at this time, a lot more concern around recession at that point in time. Those conversations have largely gone away.
Okay. Are you a bit more confident about growth than what you might have been a quarter ago?
I was very confident a quarter ago. I continue to be very confident right now. And I think for us, again, we've got to look at sustained growth over time. So it's not about a blip that we would go in and say we're growing very well. It has to be sustained.
Okay. And what about group and M&M within that? Because, I mean, your clutch of businesses, you enacted some leadership changes in a couple of buckets as well. I'm not saying necessarily because the past versus the present might be better, but you've done changes out there. So tell us a bit about what is top of your mind when you look at your group, and how do you see 2024 or the next 3 or 4 years, as the case may be?
For us, top of mind is to have bold aspirations, because to be part of the India growth story, we've got to be bold. And second, deliver on the commitments that we make. So for us, the focus really is execution and ensure that we are delivering high quality products. We're delivering what the consumer wants. We're a leader in technology because that is reshaping every industry. And that's something we've done a lot on across various industries. And that we've got a very strong talent base that enables us to do all of it.
Yeah, but no, I'm still trying to probe you a little bit. The clutch of those businesses out there, both on services and manufacturing, as you look forward, and I'm not asking you to choose one among a favorite son amongst the few or a favorite daughter amongst the few that you have, but just give us some flavor.
So I can give you details on each one of them. The way we look at it, auto and farm have to capitalize on market leadership. And for auto, the big story is going to be electric. We've got 5 born electric SUVs coming in starting December this year. And that is going to change the game. For farm, international and farm machinery are the 2 big growth drivers. Then we've got Tech Mahindra and Mahindra Finance. Both are on a very solid turnaround path right now. Mahindra Finance started that journey about 1.5 years ago and has made tremendous progress on a number of fronts that we've talked about publicly before. Tech Mahindra is on a very solid path now as well, and it will require a number of actions over the next 2 to 3 years. Mohit has come in as a new CEO and he's outlining those. So again, very confident about where that business will go. And then we've got our growth gems, 10 of them. For our growth gems, we've set an ambitious bar of 5x in the next 5 to 7 years. And we've got a couple of businesses who've already met that. We've got a few other businesses who've got plans to get there. And this includes Sustain, our last mile business, which is electric 3-wheelers, holidays, life spaces, logistics, classic legends. So we've got a set of very good businesses. And the good news is that they're all performing at a very good clip right now. Again, we're building businesses for the long run. And therefore, I don't look as much as what's happening in the short run. Yes, as a CEO of a listed entity, you can't ignore that. But for us, the more important part is build businesses well and build them for the long run.
Okay. Now, my last question, and I won't invoke sustainability because I think the group has spoken a lot about it. But as you walk across the promenade, AI seems to be the buzzword each day for the last 4 days, at least to my mind. Now, as somebody who's heading such a large group, as somebody who's head of FICCI as well, how do you think corporates in India, how do you think your group manages to adapt to AI, benefit out of it, or at least not get impacted by the disruption that AI, generative AI, etc. might cause?
So our goal is to be a tech leader in every industry we are in. So therefore, for every new technology, we are ahead of the curve. Tech Mahindra is a huge asset because their strengths enable us to look at each of our businesses and create solutions for them. So we're looking at generative AI projects across multiple businesses right now. We built certain very solid tools that will enable us to do that. And even beyond that, if you look back at metaverse, blockchain prior to that, we've got very good applications of that in our businesses. Overall, I do feel that AI right now is, in the short run, hyped a lot more than it should be, which happens to every new technology. We did the same thing with metaverse. We did the same thing with blockchain prior to that. But in the long run, there's a lot more value that we will see from it than we may foresee right now. So it's clearly a game changer. And it's about how we use that, adapt that for various cases that are required across businesses that will differentiate the folks who succeed and those who don't.
Okay, and my final question to you, we started off with India, I'm ending with India. 2024, you already said that growth will be strong, but if the world growth, I mean, we know that it's in some sense faltering, even though, yes, a lot more confidence around predictability of inflation, etc. But if growth falters for whatever reason, we do not have a soft landing or no landing, but have a hard landing, let's say, in the US at least, could Indian growth still be resilient, or will it be a case of relativity?
We are always going to be impacted by what happens around the world. We're not an economy in isolation. That said, India has a lot of things going for it. Demographics is a key aspect there. And I do feel that it will be an opportunity for us to be able to really do a lot more and stay ahead in terms of our growth rate.
Okay, cross fingers for that. But Dr. Shah, thanks so much for taking the time out and speaking to us. Really a pleasure talking to you today.
Likewise.
And
pleasure being with you.
Thank you. And viewers, thanks for tuning in.